I really do believe we're in a time in our history, American history and world history, that leaders specifically need to step up. And I believe that one of the greatest tools of genuine leadership has, for lack of a better term, fallen by the wayside. I believe there are some details about leadership, about relationships, about family, about legacy, about heritage that have been discombobulated. I believe things have been put out of order. Priorities have been lost. What it is that we will pass on to the next generation as leaders has been skewed. Today I'm going to talk about a tool that is probably the most powerful and most profound tool of leadership that has ever been utilized. And yet its use has been diminished. And we really need to get back to it as leaders. Welcome to Leading Leaders Podcast. 5-minute videos, 5 days a week. The tool that I'm talking about is the journal. Yeah, this is just 2020. I've got journals that go all the way back to when I was 20 years old. And I've told my kids over and over again, you need to understand that the power of these journals are that my greatest thinking is captured here. Now, some of these have been turned into books. Some of these have been ideas that I've shared with clients. Some of these have been conversations that I've had just with myself. And I know that makes me seem a little bit suspicious, but the conversations I've had with myself are some of the most valuable for me, and ultimately will be the most valuable for my children and anyone who asks the question when I'm gone, what did he think about and why did he think like that? Because what did he think about and why did he think like that is caught up in these journals. It's caught up right here. I sit and think for hours. I ponder ideas and new ideas and old ideas and ways of thinking and social issues and political issues and religious issues and leadership issues and thought issues. And yes, I still have all my old books from electronics engineering studies and from fire science studies. And when I start meshing those things together, some unusual ideas come out, and some of them make great illustrations for the stage as a public speaker. Some of them make great analogies to explain in the course of a book or in a conversation how someone could see something in a different way to raise their level of awareness. Some of these ideas are business ideas. They're new launch ideas. There are things that I could add to my streams of revenue. There are ways that I could better serve my customer. And all of those together are captured in my journals. Now, my fear is that as we move more into a digital age, we see that there are a lot of people in the digital age that they only track on their phone. They only track on their iPad, or they only track it digitally. And I don't want this to sound conspiracy theory or alarmist, but what you put in your digital media right now is being hacked. It's being hacked. It's being stolen, captured, compared, twisted, in all kinds of ways. It's being hacked. You know that your credit cards can be hacked. You know that your personal bank accounts can be hacked. You've probably experienced identity theft or know someone who has. If you think that they're doing that and not capturing the data of your new business ideas, you're naive. If you think that the people who are hacking that detail like your bank records are only after your bank records and not the grandest schemes of industrial espionage, you're naive. If you think that the ideas that you have, that you keep in your digital devices, is safe and permanent, then you're naive. The reason that I keep things on paper and I try to keep a close tab on where they are is because these are some personal thoughts, some private thoughts, some professional thoughts, some business innovation thoughts, but they are my thoughts and they have value. But I also believe we're coming to a time in history when we're going to look back at our kids and our grandkids and we're going to say, but understand, this is not the way it has always been. And our simply trying to recount what the good old days were like or what the days were like before XYZ. I mean, honestly, for someone 5 years old right now, Can you imagine when they're 10 and 12 years old and all they've ever known is wearing a mask and school open and school closed and school open and school closed? Can you imagine explaining to them what it was like when you could literally just walk out the front door and get on your bicycle and ride anywhere around the neighborhood and stay gone until the streetlights went out? It's hard enough to explain that to young people today that we didn't always have video games. It's hard enough to explain that there were times when, we would drink out of the same water bottle. There were times that we would drink out of the garden hose in a long line behind each other after playing in the street and in the dirt. We would all come and share the same water hose. Yeah, there was a day like that and nobody died from it. But that's not the world that they've lived in, and that's not the world they've been exposed to. Again, I've done interviews with my in-laws and with my grandparents, and I have them on video. And I go back and look at them, and I think when they explain to me what life was like when, some of that is hard for me to conceive. Young people today, you've probably seen the videos of them trying to pick up a rotary phone and dial a rotary phone and figure out how to have a conversation with somebody else. They're looking for the send button. Well, there's not one. There's not an enter button. This is not Skype. And as we move further and further away from the way things were then, today will then become the way things were. And as that happens, my friends, this handwritten journal has a lot of value. How would you like to get your hands on the handwritten journals of, say, Saul Alinsky or Martin Luther King Jr. or Louis Farrakhan when he was a teenager? These are the kinds of ideas and thoughts that shape generation after generation, and it's crucial that we not lose them. So how are you keeping up with your thoughts? As we lead this generation into the next generation, how will you be remembered? What mark will you leave for them to remember you by? And what instructions will you leave? What business ideas? What private thoughts? There's a lot of value in what goes through your head. There's a lot of value that you can leave behind that goes way beyond money that the bank can confiscate or that the IRS could confiscate. I'm talking about real value, ideas, thoughts, personal notions, private understandings. These things have deep, deep value. And if we lose them, we lose a lot. If we lose the ability to point back to yesterday and say, this is what it was really like. Forget what they've told you in the history books. They lied. Forget what they told you in the media. They lied. This is what yesterday was really like. I know because I was there. Friends, if you are a leader of any sort, leading a household, leading a corporation, or leading a nation, and you're not keeping a journal of the thoughts that are going through your heads, the things that you're an eyewitness to, I think you're missing out on the greatest legacy that you could leave. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family,